Hey guys. So when we left off yesterday in A Boy Called Bat, remember Bat had gotten up super early and he decided he was going to feed the baby skunk kit, and he realized that the skunk kit's eyes had finally opened and he thought that the kit had the most beautiful eyes he'd ever seen. And when Mom woke up, she pointed out to Bat that, that he never looks into people's eyes, and that you could tell a lot about a person by looking at their eyes. Okay, and that just kind of made him feel a little uncomfortable. He preferred to look in the eyes of animals. So here we are on chapter 24. A reply. Bat, said Mr. Grayson as the students filed into the classroom. You got an email from Dr. Jerry Dragoo. He wrote back? Bat said, his heart beating faster. There were only a few days left until Thor was supposed to go to the rescue center, and he had almost given up hope. What did he say? You can read it at recess, Mr. Grayson said. It's a nice email. I want to read it now. All the other kids were at their desks, but Bat was still standing in the aisle. He felt his hands pull up tight against his sides the way they did when he was excited. At recess, Bat, said Mr. Grayson. Bat hated waiting. He hated waiting. It was stupid to wait for something if there was no good reason that it couldn't happen now. Who cared if the class started a few minutes late? If it meant that he could read his email? A real-life skunk expert had written to him. That was certainly more important than anything Mr. Grayson had planned right now. Had a real-life skunk expert ever written to Mr. Grayson? Almost certainly not. Mr. Grayson, I think you should let me read my email now, Bat said. Bat, Mr. Grayson answered, sometimes we have to wait. It's good to practice to delay gratification. Bat didn't really know what Mr. Grayson meant by that, but he knew it meant that Mr. Grayson wasn't going to let him read the email right now. He wanted to insist, and he would insist if he thought he could change Mr. Grayson's mind, but Mr. Grayson looked serious, so Bat reluctantly went to his seat. Too bad, said Israel, putting down the book he had been reading. Don't make fun of me, Bat yelled. Whoa, dude, Israel said. I wasn't making fun of you. Bat, said Mr. Grayson, coming over to his desk. What on earth is the matter? Israel was making fun of me, Bat said. I was not, said Israel. I just said it's too bad. Bat can't read his email right now. You don't really think it's too bad, Bat said. He felt his eyes on the surface of his desk. Or he kept his eyes on the surface of his desk, so he's just staring at his desk right now. Running his gaze over the wood grain. You don't know what I think, Bat, said Israel. You don't know everything. Bat, said Mr. Grayson, putting his hand on Bat's shoulder. The weight of his hand felt good. It helped Bat to feel like he was sitting in his seat, like he wasn't going to fly away. Try to give Israel the benefit of the doubt, okay? If he says he was being sincere, believe him. Bat nodded, but he didn't look up. Israel went back to his book. For what it's worth, Bat, said Mr. Grayson in a quieter voice, I think Israel was being kind. I think he'd like to be your friend. Then Mr. Grayson took his hand off Bat's shoulder and returned to the front of the room. Now Bat wasn't just thinking about the email from Dr. Jerry Dragoo. He was also thinking about whether Israel wanted to be his friend. He thought about how Israel had asked him if he wanted to play Foursquare, and how he had said hello outside of the sugar shack. Then he thought about the other kids in the class looking at him right now, and he thought about Thor's eyes, and he thought about the windy day outside. It was too much to think about all at once, and his skin began to feel prickly and too tight. But he couldn't take off his skin, so instead he reached into his backpack for his earmuffs and slipped them on. The classroom noise around him faded, and Bat's skin calmed down. Bat looked at the clock above the classroom door. It was 8:55. Recess was at 10:15. That was exactly 1 hour and 20 minutes away. He could wait that long. He didn't like it, but he could do it. Time was a funny thing. Sometimes an hour and 20 minutes didn't feel very long at all. Like when Bat was watching YouTube videos about animals, and sometimes like when Dad was watching baseball on TV, an hour and 20 minutes felt like 20 years. But that day, the hour and 20 minutes between 8:55 and 10:15 felt like 20 baseball games. At last Mr. Grayson said, "Okay, gang, go play." The kids shoved back their chairs and headed for the door. Bat pulled off his earmuffs and went to Mr. Grayson's desk. "It's recess," he said. "Yes, Bat, it sure is," said Mr. Grayson. He opened his laptop. "Can I read the email too?" Israel asked. He hadn't gone outside with the other kids. "Why?" asked Bat. "Because I'm curious. You've been talking about Dr. Jerry Dragoo nonstop." That wasn't true, was it? Maybe it was true. "Okay," said Bat, "but no making fun." "I wasn't making fun before," Israel said, "and I won't now." "Here you go, gentlemen," Mr. Grayson said. He clicked on the top message in his inbox. The subject line was R-E, question about a baby skunk. Then he stood up so that Bat could have his chair. "When you're done reading your email, just close the laptop and come join us outside," he said. Then he headed out to the playground. Bat sat down. He could feel Israel standing behind him, reading over his shoulder. The email read, "Dear Bat, I am very interested in skunks, as you know. I can tell that you feel very attached to the kit, and I don't blame you. Baby skunks are adorable. But the question of whether you should keep him as a pet is a complicated one. Even if your mom feels reasonably sure that he is disease-free, all pets require a huge commitment of time, energy, and usually money. Skunks are no different. In fact, keeping a skunk as a pet is much more challenging than keeping a dog or a cat. Skunks are not pets by nature. They are wild animals, and from my many years of experience, I can tell you that most people don't know what they are getting into. It's very easy to fall in love with a baby skunk, but it's difficult to truly be a good caretaker to a skunk. Most people would be better off with a dog. Still, this skunk kit has come into your life, and for at least the next few weeks, you and your mother must work to be the best caretakers you can be. Should you keep the kit? Should you give him to the rescue people? I don't know the answer because I don't know you and I don't know your kit, but it sounds like for now the kit is right where it needs to be, and I trust that you will take good care of it. Sincerely, Jerry Dragoo, Ph.D., Dragoo Institute for the Betterment of Skunks and Skunk Reputations. "That's too bad," said Israel. "What's too bad?" asked Bat. "That the skunk guy doesn't think you should keep the kit." "That's not what he said," said Bat. "Well, he didn't say that he'd tell your mom to keep him. He didn't say that skunks make good pets." "That's true," said Bat, "but he didn't say we shouldn't keep Thor either. He said that a good caretaker makes a good pet. So all I have to do is be the best caretaker in the world and convince my mom to let me keep raising him. I can do that." Bat closed Mr. Grayson's laptop, absolutely determined to become the very best caretaker that a skunk had ever had. "Can I come over sometime?" Israel asked. "Why?" said Bat. "I don't know," said Israel. "To hang out and maybe meet Thor?" "It's okay with me," Bat answered. "I'll have to ask my mom." Chapter 25, House Guests. There were just a few days left before Thor was supposed to leave for the animal rescue. Bat didn't have any time to lose, and all afternoon he practiced how he was going to tell Mom about Dr. Jerry Dragoo and how important it was that Thor stay with them as long as possible. But that night, at dinner, he found himself nervously avoiding the topic. What if he couldn't change Mom's mind? Bat couldn't imagine anything worse than that, so instead of telling her about Dr. Jerry Dragoo, Bat said, "Israel wants to come over to our house." "Who's Israel?" asked Janie, dipping her chicken chunk into barbecue sauce. "He's a kid in my class," Bat said. "Bat, honey, that's great," said Mom. "Is he your friend?" Janie asked. Bat considered the question. Was Israel his friend? Israel was nice to him. He was interested in some of the same things that interested Bat. He didn't seem to think Bat was weird, and he wanted to visit. "I don't know," Bat said. "Maybe he is." "That's kind of a big deal," said Janie. "You've never had a friend over before." "Yes, I have," Bat said. "Ezra comes over all the time." "He's my friend, not yours," Janie said. "He can be your friend and Bat's," said Mom. "I thought you said Ezra is annoying," Janie said. "He is annoying," said Bat, "but so are you, and you are still my friend." No one is more annoying than you, said Janie, but I guess you're my friend too. Neither of you is annoying, said Mom, and Bat, I think it's great that you want to have a friend over. Well, said Bat, dipping his chicken chunk in ketchup. It was Israel's idea, not mine. He wants to meet Thor. At that moment, Thor was just where he should be, tucked into his pouch, warm against Bat's chest, and remembering Thor made Bat nervous all over again. I think it's a great idea, no matter whose it was, said Mom. I'll call Israel's parents to set something up, maybe Saturday? Whenever, Bat said. And then he said, Mom, there's something else too. What is it? Mom had a chicken chunk in her hand, already dipped in sauce, but she set it down. I wrote to a world skunk expert, Bat said. The words came out fast and loud because they were important. I wrote and asked him about keeping Thor as a pet because I don't want to send him to the rescue people. I want to raise him here at our house. I love Thor. I think maybe he loves me too, and I'm not ready to give him away. Oh, Bat, Mom said, how on earth did you find a world skunk expert? And then Bat told her about reading in his animal encyclopedia about Dr. Jerry Dragoo and about Mr. Grayson helping him with the email, and about writing and waiting for a response, and about finally getting an email back, and about how Israel had wanted to read it too. I can be a good skunk caretaker, Mom, he said last, and then he waited to hear what she would say. But it was Janie who spoke. Wow, Bat, she said, that's pretty cool that you've found an expert to write to him. That takes guts. I think you should let him keep raising the skunk, Mom. He's pretty serious. Bat was so surprised that he felt his mouth drop open. Janie was helping him? Bat, Mom said, I have been watching you with the kit. You are so responsible and careful with him. But, honey, raising Thor until he's old enough to release is a big commitment. He'd have to stay with us all through the rest of the school year and through summer as well. Well, that sounded wonderful to Bat. The longer the better, he said. You say that now, Mom said, but what if you get tired of feeding him and cleaning up after him? And what about when he gets bigger and he's awake more of the time? Mom, said Bat, and he did his very best to make his voice sound as serious as he felt. I will never get tired of Thor. That would be like you getting tired of me and Janie. Mom laughed, and she reached over to squeeze Bat's hand. Then she shook her head, which Bat knew was the sign for no, and he felt his eyes singing with unspilled tears. But, she said, beautiful Bat, you have become an excellent skunk caretaker. You have been dedicated, and you even found a way to contact a skunk expert. I have to admit, I am impressed. I'll tell you what, I'm thinking that maybe we won't call the Animal Rescue Center next week, and we can try having you take care of Thor with my help until he's old enough to release. How does that sound? How did it sound? It sounded not as good as a promise that he could keep Thor forever, but still impossibly good. Bat felt like he was vibrating on the inside. He was so happy. He wanted to jump up and whoop with joy. But Thor was curled up and asleep in his sling, and a good skunk caretaker would never startle his kit like that. So instead he said, thank you, Mom. And thank you, Janie. Thank you both. And we will leave off there today.